Hi, I'm Barry Sahajian. This week's tutorial is Bass Technique. This is a book I wrote in 1981, and I'm going to show you how to get your technique together the right way to get you to play the best based on 58 years of professional experience, and in part, this book I wrote in 81. So basically, I think there's two types of technique exercises. The first one, the objective is to just get your hands stronger and move all of your fingers in patterns that really are not useful in most playing situations. They really don't fit with harmonies, traditional harmonies or chords, and they work well, but why should we settle for a technique exercise that only does one thing? This is an example I was just talking about. It's purely physical to get your muscles, memory, and your technique on all four fingers across all four frets. And here's how it works. You start on a G, 3rd fret of the E string, and go up to the 4th fret of the E string with the index in the middle. Then you go over to the A string, so 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. Then you move up to the next string starting on the 3rd fret, which is C. Play a half-step interval, then from 5 and 6 on the D string, and so forth. When I finished ascending on the first pattern, I wound up on my baby finger on the 6th fret. I slide up to the 7th fret and I descend the same way. Now this is purely physical because it's not really something you can use with a chord. It is a scale, technically. It's a chromatic scale, broken down every 2 frets, moving to a new string. It works great, but it's not what I'm after right now. I'm after that diatonic exercise that can be used with chords and modes and a lot of different uses. The second type of bass technique exercises would be based on a chord change or a scale, and you would still be able to develop your fingers and strength and dexterity, but in addition, you would be adding to your vocabulary of melodic and rhythmical ideas that you can use in playing situations. So I think it makes much more sense to do it that way. You get 2 for 1. Next, we have diatonic. Now, I consider this one very important, very useful, and you hear any improviser somewhere along the line, you'll hear them play lines similar to this. What this is, in simple terms, is going up the major scale 4 notes at a time, starting from the 1st degree, 2nd degree, 3rd degree, 4th degree, and 5th and 6th degree. Then it descends. I'm going to break this down now, and I'm breaking it down into 6 sections. 3 sections ascending and 3 sections descending. And how I do it, each section has 2 degrees of the scale going up 4 notes from each degree. So in other words, let's start ascending, the first of 3 sections going up, ascending. So we would be ascending from the root and from the 2nd. 4 notes each time, like this. I hold the last note for a full measure. The next 2 scale degrees would be the 3rd and the 4th, going up 4 notes each time and holding the last note a full measure. And finally, the 5th and the 6th, the last 2 scale tones ascending. Now we can try going up using all three sections connected together, which would sound like this. I'll do a little faster. Now we're going to descend. We're going to descend the same way we ascended. We're going to start from the G, the octave, and we're going to use the octave and then the major seventh, and each one of those I will descend 4 notes from the scale. Then we do the same thing with the next 2 scale tones, which would be a 6 and a 5. Slowly. Next we descend from the 4th and the 3rd. Now you notice we land on the major 7th, which is a half step away from the root. And that will go into play on the next section we play, which would be the advanced version of this exercise. So now that we've done that, let's do all 3 of the segments together on the descending. I'll do it fast so you can hear what it really sounds like. The next step is to play ascending and descending. It turns out to be 6 measures, which is, an even number. That is the beauty of these exercises. They're always in even numbers, which makes it easier to phrase and easier to put into music in a number of different ways. That's what I did here. I made sure that everything was in groups of 4, the notes going up 2 notes at a time, 2, 4, and in this case, to completely ascend and descend is 6 measures, and all the phrases I gave you were 2 measures, so this makes it much easier to negotiate when you're trying to put it into an improvisation or composing or anything you would do with these. And they also fit in, because it is a major scale, it fits in great melodically and harmonically. So that's the beauty of it. So let me give you the next stage of this line, which is to ascend and descend. Now you notice I played, when I came down, the line came down, it wound up a half step below the root at the last 8th note of the measure, so you repeated the whole phrase again, and it stayed within that 6 measures, exactly 6 measures, which made it work beautiful. Now the next thing we want to do is play it in all 12 keys going up chromatically, and this helps stamina and phrasing. And when you do this, if you can get there, I don't expect you to get there right away. I didn't. But now I can go from here to here without making a mistake. And as I go up, I'm concentrating on even notes and the time. And I'll show you. I'm not going to go all the way to the top. Yeah, I'll just go up like 4 or 5 keys and stop, just to show you. So I went up 4 keys, G, A flat, A, B flat, And I usually go up to there, but I don't want to keep you bored. I didn't want to bore you with the same exercise, but that's what I do. And when I get up to here, I am totally warmed up. Although, you know, you don't want to go there too quick. You may risk getting carpal tunnel. I'd like to discuss a little about the theory of these lines. They work very well, and I want to explain why and how to use them. First of all, since we are in the key of G, and all the tones are in the key of G, basically, you can use these two sets of 4 tones with any chord diatonically in the key of G. I'd like to take a look at example 1, which includes the 2 sets of 4 tones starting from the 1st degree and the 2nd degree. We get 8 tones all lined up real nice. What do they mean and how do they work? First of all, let's take a look at the relationship to the G scale. We have a root. We have a 2nd, a 3rd, a 4th, a 2nd, a 3rd, 4th, and a 5th. So basically what we have is the major triad right there. We have root, 3rd, 3rd again, and the 5th. So they work famously, very consonant, which means sounds good. Then we have the major 2nd. We have that once, twice. So major 2nd is the same as a major 9. And either one of those will work beautifully on any chord in the G scale. So now we have 6 out of 8 tones that sound great and very consonant. Now we have 1, the 4th degree of the scale, which is not very consonant, a little dissonant. But since it only happens twice, and if you're using these 2 sets of 4 tones, you're going to blow by it real quick, and when it reaches the next tone, or in the case of descending, going the other way, it doesn't really make that much of a difference. If you hang on the 4th, then you're creating a very dissonant sound, sometimes desirable if you wanted a sus chord. So I'm not saying this is a catch-all or a one-shoe-fits-all. I'm saying this is a great way to use more effectively the major scale to create bass lines, for soloing, for composing. It works for all genres. The major scale is one of the most important things you can learn in Western music, so let's get with it. This next section, I'm going to present some creative examples using this 4-note concept. And I'd like to point out that I'm not always right on the money with the rules because being creative requires breaking some rules. But for the most part, you'll see how I'm using these, and I'm going to analyze them with theory, which is interesting. If you like this video, please subscribe. Hit the bell to be notified of all the upcoming videos, like and comment. I will be including the background tracks, extended versions in different tempos on my Patreon page, as well as all the notes and tabs. There's a link in the video description below, and you can check that out if you want. This is the first of 4 creative examples, and once again, we have 2 scale degrees. That would be a G and an E, which is the 6th degree. And we have 4 tones, scale tones, going down from each of the scale degrees. From the 1st degree, we have 4 scale tones, and from the 6th degree, we have 4 scale tones. We also have 2 chords. We have on the 1st degree, the root, a G triad. And from the 6th, we have an E minor triad. There's a rhythmic variation here. We have the first 4 notes have a different rhythm than the second 4 notes. That is unique, and that's what makes it have a little character. It sounds a little like R&B. There's many variations you could come up with if you thought about it a bit. For instance, now on this line, you have 2 segments of 4 going down. There's no reason why you couldn't have one going up and one going down. What I just played you was creative number 3. That would be this one right here. And it is a 2-chord progression. And it would be going from G, which is the 1, to C, which is the 4. Now, something different happens here that I must explain to you. So what we're doing is relating the tones, the 4 tones, in 2 different ways. In the first way, we're relating it to the scale. So this would be the 5th degree of the scale. We're starting there. We're going down 4 tones. But that is relating to the scale. It's a scale degree. We're starting from the 5th degree of the scale, which is different than the root of the chord. So you have to think of the scale degree, and you have to think of what the note is relating to the chord itself. So the G chord, and we're starting on the 5th. Same thing happens with the C chord. It's a C chord. We're not starting on the root as we did in number 1. We're starting on the 3rd of the C chord. So the 3rd is related to the C triad as a 3rd. But this note, the E note, it relates to the scale as a 6th. So there's 2 ways of thinking about it. So using this 4-note approach, there's 2 different ways to look at it. I want to break it down so I make it a little simpler. Basically, you can play from any degree of the scale, 4 notes up or down, and it's going to work. However, you would have to kind of use your ear to be selective on what you want it to sound like. You can just run up and down and it'll work. But what it's going to sound like is more predictable if you base the 4-note pattern from a chord. For instance, A minor, which would be the 2nd degree of the scale, and it would be a Dorian mode, and you have a minor 3rd of C. But if you want to relate that C to the scale, that's a 4th. If you base it from the chord in the progression in that key, then you can get the sound of a 3rd if you want the 3rd. But it's not going to be the same as a scale tone. And that's basically it. So you can do it using shapes, many different ways to relate to it. Best way is to understand your theory in depth and know what you're going to get. But it's still a great way, an easy way to start your improvising or creating songs. Just take 4 notes from any scale degree and fly with it.